Hey y'all, it's Megan from Made for Mermaids, and today we're working on our Nyx Knickers pattern. You're going to need to cut one front piece on the fold, and then you're going to need two back pieces, cut mirror images to each other. You can either cut the high dip or the low dip on the back. Then you're going to need two liner pieces, one in a main fabric and one for the lining, and then all of your elastics. You can use picot elastic, fold over elastic, or like me in the video, use stretch lace trim to finish. Just choose one and cut those out, or you can do a combination of a few. The first step is to finish the top edges of your back piece. You're going to stitch your chosen elastic along the top on each back piece. If you're using the picot elastic or the fold over elastic and you need a video on how to attach those, I will link them in the description below. I also have a video on how to sew flat elastic on lingerie, which is very similar to the stretch lace. And so you can see here I'm just placing the lace along the edge and stitching in the middle of the lace. You can also stitch on the edge of the lace, but I'm going to link the flat elastic below too, since it's very similar to how you would sew the stretch lace. After I stitch my lace trim down, I like to trim the fabric that's above the seam line. This is going to reduce the bulk, and I also just prefer the look of seeing my skin behind the lace as opposed to the fabric behind the lace. So you can see I've trimmed it down here just a little bit. Now it's time to stitch your two back pieces together. So just place them right sides together, and along the back dip line you're going to stitch them with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can baste it first if you're going to use your serger, just so you make sure your elastics align at the top edge. Then I like to trim this seam down, and I'm going to press it to one side and top stitch it along the seam. You can also just create a little small bar tack at the top to hold the elastic if you prefer. Now it's time to add the crotch lining. So you're going to take your main liner piece and lay it right side up, and you're going to align the back piece with the right side facing down, wrong side up, and then the inner liner piece you're going to lay with the wrong side facing up, right side down. So you should have 3 layers. The main lining, right sides together with the back piece, and then your inner lining with the wrong side up. Then stitch these together with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And when you pull the lining pieces apart, you'll see that the seams are all enclosed. Now I like to lay the lining pieces right side up so I can see, and we're going to attach the front. So you're going to take your front piece and lay it with the right side down, wrong side facing up to the main liner. So you can see those right sides are together. Now you're going to wrap your liner, your inner liner, around your pieces. So I kind of roll the underwear out of the way and wrap the inner liner around so that you have your 3 layers again. The main lining right sides together with the front, and then the inner liner with the wrong side up. And then you're going to stitch it again with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And when you unroll the underwear, the seams will be completely enclosed. Here we go. So we're unrolling and you have it all together. If this part is confusing for you, I highly suggest using an inner lining fabric that has a very clear front and back. That will help. The next step is to finish the top front of the underwear. So I'm using stretch lace again. You can use fold over elastic, or you can also use picot to finish this front top. After you finish the front top edge, it's time to finish the leg lines. And again, you can use picot elastic, fold over elastic, or the stretch lace trim to finish the leg line. I'm finishing the legs in the flat, meaning before I sew the side seam. If you prefer to finish the leg line in the round, then you would go ahead and sew your side seam first and then attach your elastics to the leg line. I'm stitching all of my lace trim, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to trim the fabric above the seam line just like I did on the back. After I have it all stitched down and I have trimmed the fabric above the seam lines, it's time to sew the side seams. You're going to put your front and back pieces together with the right sides together and stitch with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I like to trim the seam if I use my sewing machine and then press the seam towards the back and then just top stitch that seam down so the elastics all stay in place. Now that your side seams are done, we are almost complete and it's time to add the cross back straps. I'm using fold over elastic for my strap, so I just fold it over and top stitch it to create the straps. You can also use picot elastic, you can use flat lingerie elastic, or any other trims that you would like. Make sure that you have marked your back pattern piece with the markings from the pieces, and we're going to baste the strap pieces in place. Now the pattern gives one type of placement for the straps, but you can really play around with this and do all sorts of different designs. We have a few suggested in the pattern, but you can have a lot of fun with these back straps. So I'm just basting them in place, and then you're going to want to try them on and adjust if you need to. And just remember that the strap links given in the tutorial are used more as a guide. You may need to adjust depending on what kind of straps you're using. If you're using really stretchy elastic, you may need to cut some off, and just depending on how you want it to look, you might need to adjust it. After you try them on and you are happy with the placement and length of the straps, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to stitch the straps down in place, and then they are complete. That's all there is. If you make some of the knits, we would love to see them in our Facebook group or tag us on Instagram at Made for Mermaids. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and I'll try to answer. We'll see you next time. Bye.